This is a training video on operational behavior management. The target company that we'll be looking at today is Widgetron. Widgetron's main production process involves 3 assembly lines, each of which produce a component of a widget. Each of these 3 assembly lines is comprised of 10 workers who independently attend to one job. Throughout this discussion, we'll talk about 3 current workers who are struggling from a behavioral perspective, and their behaviors are impacting the development of production as well as advancement of the Widgetron company. The supervisor's responsibility is to train new hires, ensure that each member of their unit performs their job appropriately and accurately. The supervisor's responsibilities also involve setting expectations, delivering compensation, and completing performance evaluations. Currently, OBM needs of Widgetron, the operational behavior management needs of Widgetron, include the idea that the supervisors at Widgetron have been reporting that they are having trouble training and maintaining employee performance. They have also reported that employees do not appear to be motivated to complete their tasks and that the components are often assembled inaccurately. Finally, the managers of Widgetron have also reported that since each component is needed to produce a widget, all components must be completed on time and with high precision. Recently, errors have been reducing overall production and increasing costs. Again, specific to Widgetron, 3 employees are going to be focused upon. Baseline data for them in regards to what behaviors are currently being noted, as well as how those behaviors are directly affecting the production of the company, will be focused upon. Growth in any rate, shape, or form will be measured off of this original baseline. Now let's look at the 3 employees who are currently struggling behaviorally. Employee number 1 is Bill. Bill's an employee that was hired by Widgetron. He was recruited a few months ago to serve as a supervisor for Widgetron, and he is already thinking of looking elsewhere. I get no feedback whatsoever from my manager, says Bill, with no sense of how he fits into the company's overall goals or how his performance is impacting the company, which is then leading to low motivation for Bill. Due to precision concerns with production, the team Bill has been put in charge of also has low production numbers, further leading to his lack of motivation with the company and with his skill as a leader. The functional statement of Bill's current behavior is the idea that Bill is demonstrating low motivation through indication of frustration around communication and an inability to align his goals with the company goals. Due to that, recommendation for behavior changes are as followed. The first strategy that will be used with Bill is the concept of proximal and immediate feedback. He's currently indicating that he's lacking feedback and instruction in the form of direct communication, so a system will be put in place to help support that. Feedback enables employees to find out what the quality of their work is, and this is what we will use for Bill. Goals will be developed to support use of this actual feedback support. Follow through from Bill's direct supervisor with the feedback plan will solidify assurance of the support. And finally, weekly team meetings between Bill and his direct supervisor will be scheduled to go over team growth. In addition, an individual incentive plan will be used for Bill. An individual incentive plan will be put in place due to his current role in the company, as well as the current function of his behavior, the need for a direct one-on-one contact in regards to specifics around what he needs to be doing differently or what to do to align with values of the company. The first step in setting up an individual incentive plan is to establish goals and achievement guidelines supported by benchmarks. The benchmarks will be what Bill gains motivation to support employees to work towards to earn their incentives. Goals will be posted along with benchmarks. Bill will be having an incentive program that is private in regards to not causing animosity amongst others, speaking to the fact that this is an incentive plan specifically being used to help motivate him as a leader. Bill will be allowed to use his own discretion in employee team motivation strategies. Incentives will be provided to Bill when benchmarks towards established goals are met, and large incentives will be provided when established goals are met. Fading of this incentive plan will not be used, as the incentive plan has been budgeted to Bill's current salary. Behavior plan needs around employee number 2 will be that for Sarah. Sarah is an employee that has worked for Widgetron for over 5 years. Sarah recently has demonstrated an increase in absence behaviors. As a company, Widgetron understands that everyone needs to miss work occasionally, but Sarah has been missing work at a rate that causes everyone else to double time it to cover her shift responsibilities. The functional statement of her current behavior is the idea that Sarah is demonstrating obstinate work behaviors. Sarah signed a contract when she hired in with Widgetron. The contract included parameters around tolerance for employee absences. Sarah's behavior is oppositional and is negatively impacting her coworkers' work habits and work production. In regards to recommendations for behavior change for Sarah, an individual employee behavior correction plan will be put into place to include self-solicited feedback. An individual correction plan will be put in place for Sarah due to her presented behavior and its direct opposition with noted company policy. Self-solicitation provides a way to determine when and how often an individual looks at the feedback and thus to directly assess the reinforcing value of the feedback. So she'll be soliciting her own individual feedback based upon technology, which we'll talk about in a moment. Specifics to technology, Sarah will have access to data-based information on a daily basis that she can reference as well as interact with to help maintain motivation as well as help her understand where she is in regards to getting close to her own individual incentive plan specific to correction needing to be made. Similar to the first employee, for Sarah, an individual incentive plan will again be used and will be put in place for her to incentivize growth of appropriate absence procedures and use of such in the case that Sarah does need to have an absence falling within company standards. There is empirical evidence suggesting that when individual performance feedback is added to an individual performance incentive system, that increases the levels of appropriate behavior. For Sarah, incentives will be in the form of a gift card to be used at a local restaurant either during lunch or on Sarah's personal time outside of work. As with the original first employee, incentives will be rewarded specific to behavioral growth that is decided upon prior to implementation of this strategy. Fading of this incentive plan will be used as goals are met and the correction plan is eventually completed and successfully signed off by Sarah and her direct supervisor. Goals will be measured and compared to baseline data monthly. And now for employee number 3. Mary is an employee that has worked for Widgetron for 15 years. Mary has designated herself as the quote-unquote champion for all employee rights and often escalates rumors to full-fledged crisis situations, whether they involve her or not. Although she believes she's looking out for the best interests of the company and its employees, Mary's actions are eroding away at Widgetron's morale. The functional statement of the current behavior is the idea that Mary is demonstrating obstinate work behaviors. She signed a contract when she hired on with Widgetron. The contract included parameters around hostile work environment behaviors, which speak directly to the idea of following complaint procedures rather than just walking around and evoking behaviors amongst other employees. For Mary, recommendations for behavior plan change include an individual employee behavior correction plan similar to what we've talked about thus far, with specifics to what's working for Mary as well as what her behaviors are currently presenting as from a company standpoint. Goals will be developed to help Mary positively use the correction plan rather than just verbally
for Mary and
going around and involving
with,
herself in
a group
employee-based
incentive plan will be added.
that may or
The group
may
incentive
not
plan will be
involve
put in
her.
place
For Mary and her coworkers currently working. This plan will focus on team cohesion, group teamwork, and an overall increase in team building specific to positive verbal interactions across the workday. The group incentive plan will be one supported by technology that can be accessed daily so that immediate feedback regarding production numbers is viewable. The first step in putting up a group incentive plan will be to establish goals and achievement guidelines supported by benchmarks. Incentives will be provided to Mary and her coworkers when benchmarks towards established goals are met. As growth is attained, incentives will be in the form of prepaid lunch to be used at a local restaurant either during lunch or on staff's personal time outside of work. Goals will be measured and compared to baseline data monthly and will be specific to use of current internal procedures and follow through of Mary's progress toward established goals. Fading of both the incentive plan and the correction plan will move from weekly reinforcement and check-ins to biweekly reinforcement to monthly reinforcement over the next 3 months. Goals will be measured and compared to baseline data as stated with all employees for the entire company monthly through use of private employee surveys, an increase in appropriate use of employee complaint or concern forms, survey forms, specific data in regards to growth of the company, and will be shared out in the form of employee newsletters as well as individual specific meetings if laid out in regards to plans that will address goals, individual employees, as well as large group of employees, and then overall the company of Widgetron. The DICE framework will be used for overall growth and assessment of the final plan to include duration, integrity of performance, commitment, and effort. All areas will be measured and assessed specific to baseline and then shared out across company employees, target employees, and administration.